Hello YouTube, my name is Isabella and today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 favorite books without romance, or really 5 recommendations of books that don't have romance. Now, I don't know about you, but I sometimes can get super sick of romantic stories, and especially YA, where every single book has a romance in it. Even when I like the romance, sometimes I get really tired of it. So I'm also really looking forward to seeing everyone else's recommendations. If you do this video, please let me know down below because I want as many recommendations as I can. But I'm gonna talk about 5 books that have no romance whatsoever, or like the person was once married. Like, it's not like there's very little romance in all the books that I'm going to be discussing. Before I forget, Top 5 Wednesdays hosted by Sam from Thoughts on Tomes, and I will leave a link to her channel in the Goodreads group down below. Now, I am running out of time to film, so I'm going to kind of speed through these very quickly. First one on this list has to be The Savage Song by V.E. Schwab. I anticipate that a lot of people are going to have this on this list. One of the biggest selling points in this series, other than it being written by Victoria Schwab, is that there's literally no romance between a boy and a girl who are both heterosexual. It's just so refreshing, and I've only read this one. I'll be reading Our Dark Duet very soon, but I know that there's going to be no romance between them, and their relationship, if it did turn into a romance, which I know it won't, I wouldn't be mad at it. But I just also really like the fact that there are 2 people that have had pretty shitty things happen to them and they come together as friends. And I totally forgot to say that The Savage Song is set in a world where violence literally breeds monsters, and it is pretty relevant to our time and like has commentary on how our society works now, which I always love. And there's great characters, love the world, and I'm very excited to read Our Dark Duet. The next book I picked on this list is slightly cheating, and this is the one book that has romance in it, and it is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in the Mistborn series. Now, there is technically a romance in this, but this is such a dense fantasy book. There's very little, and it's not like you follow the romance. It just so happens that 2 characters are kind of like falling for each other, and I'm actually not super keen on the romance. Basically, everyone's read this, so I'm not really gonna sum it up, but I think that there's just so much going for this story that a little bit of romance that I don't personally love doesn't take away anything. The next book I'm going to recommend, I didn't personally super love, but I think a lot of people will like it, and it is American Gods by Neil Gaiman. This book is about basically how immigrants have brought their gods to America, and as generations go on, we slowly forget our gods, and gods begin to lose their power, because in this story, the gods are actually here on Earth. This book doesn't have a romance in it really at all, because our main character who is in prison a few days before he gets released, his wife is actually killed in a car crash, and that is not a spoiler, it's on the back. So he's kind of grieving his wife, also gets kind of caught up in the world of gods, so there's no romance, and it's actually really refreshing. I mean, I know he's like technically married and he was in a relationship, but it doesn't focus on what their romance was. The next book I'm going to recommend, I've I think recommended a couple times already, but it is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. This is one of my favorite books. If you didn't already know, it follows a dystopian society that basically blames women for the way that humanity and society came to be. So they really oppress and restrict women, and it follows our main character and just basically her day-to-day life in this ridiculously terrifying dystopian society. And this character was actually in a relationship before the society happened, but because of like the way society is, she's forced into a weird relationship that I can't really explain. But there's no romance in this story. It's disturbing. It's very relevant to the way that women and like women's healthcare and rights and everything that's happening again in the States. I love this story, and I will recommend it to literally everyone. The final book I'm going to recommend is kind of a weird little one, but it's very special, and it taught me a lot about Canadian history that I really never knew existed. The book I'm going to recommend is called Wenjack by Joseph Boyden. Now this book, you can see it, I think it's technically like 100 pages, but you can get through it within a half an hour. This book was inspired by true events where this little boy named Cheney Wenjack escaped a residential school and tried to go home to his family. And if you didn't know, residential schools are kind of one of the darkest parts in Canadian history, and it's something I never really knew or was taught. Basically, the Canadian government went and took all the children from First Nations peoples and stuck them in schools with nuns, and they were given English names and weren't allowed to practice their culture. And it's just a really sad part of Canadian history that tends to get brushed under the rug. And so this book taught me about like what happened, and it was just heart-wrenching little book. This is a must-read for all Canadians. I don't care who you are. If you are in Canada, you should read this. It's also very interestingly told. It shows like a kind of like a little chapter through his perspective, and then the next little chapter is told through an animal that's actually featured on the cover, and it shows like their perspective and watching him trying to get home to his family. Heartbreaking and upsetting, but I think it's really worth the read, and just getting any sort of educated on what like residential schools were is really important. That last recommendation kind of took a little bit of a turn that I wasn't expecting, but I do stand by what I said. I'd like to know of any books that are, especially young adult books, that don't feature romance, because I honestly, the only one I could think of was The Savage Song, and that's because it's like heralded for being a YA with no romance. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye!